Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be together. And as we continue to work through our 100-year pandemic challenge, hopefully in the weeks to come, these events will take place in person again. But we gave our State of the County address about 2 weeks ago, where we highlighted really some of the remaining challenges we have and the problems we have in the community, really what our strategy is moving forward. But also, this really needs to be about taking advantage of post-pandemic opportunities to really help continue the growth that our region's been seeing. So, just to get things going on the positive side, let's just go through a couple positive data points. We are growing in population for the first time in really 30, 40 years. We likely had an undercount in population because we had to do it during the peak of COVID in 2020. That's important. Secondly, we have seen tremendous growth in real estate pricing. That's important because even though we're probably seeing the growth a little bit too hot right now, but we've always been between 0 to 5% growth in the real estate values. You can't have a thriving community or a thriving tax base if the tax base isn't increasing. So that's important. We're seeing growth in economic clusters, but we're seeing an uneven economic recovery, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Our airport is doing quite well with 2 new carriers, and more activity and more flights are coming back. That's really important because we are a leisure stay community, but also our business community. We do need certain flights to be able to attract new companies here. Our downtown is continuing to see growth related to it being really our community's fastest growing neighborhood, but also if you remember what downtown was like when I got on the city council in 2006 compared to today. We have a full downtown and a growing downtown into the south side and the near west side, whereas before we had Armory Square, Hanover Square. Warren Street wasn't something you were proud of. Now it's a young tech corridor. So we have a lot of good things going on. We do have challenges, and some of the challenges that we had before COVID have been exacerbated by COVID. And so many of you have probably seen me talk about COVID over the last 2 years and what it has done to us. It's so much more than just a virus. And we've built up the medical infrastructure really to respond to the virus. And now it's going to be about empowering people. We are empowering you to make decisions related to your own lives and your families, related to mitigation, related to you making choices on what types of gatherings you're comfortable in. You make a choice if you want to wear a mask or not. You make a choice if you want to go to the restaurants or not. Understanding that, the more people, there is levels of risk, but we're 2.5 years into this. We understand that risk. Then looking at the access to at-home test kits, we continue to provide those. So when you do get sick, you have the ability to test quickly, so that if you are positive, you can call your doctor for therapeutics, which are working very, very well against the BA2 strain. And also it gives you the opportunity to isolate so you don't potentially put at risk other people that you know and love. In addition to that, we continue to provide vaccines and now boosters again to give people the tools they need. But the big thing I do want to stress is really, if you're positive or somebody becomes COVID positive, the medicine, just like what most illnesses, the medicine we have now is working really well. That's why our loss of life numbers are decreasing, even though we've seen an uptick in cases. So in addition to that, what has COVID done? Then some of these really unintended consequences. People in isolation is a real problem. And our opioid crisis is worse than it's ever been. And our 2021 numbers is the worst year we've ever had, like many communities. That makes sense when people are dealing with mental health, when they're dealing with isolation, potentially unemployed. And then at the same time, when you had enhanced unemployment checks, you have more money than maybe you were used to having. those who have addiction issues have those pressures, and we saw huge upticks in our opioid losses. The other issue with opioid is the fentanyl that is coming through our southern border and of the country and from China. Most of our deaths are fentanyl-related deaths now, whether it's heroin, cocaine. That's what we're seeing. But that is something we knew. Lead paint is an issue with kids. The kids were in the homes more. Our contractors were busier, couldn't get out to do the work via our lead grants. Everything slowed down in 2020, 2021. We'll see more lead cases now. Positive news on both those two public health matters is we have resources to address those issues in 2022. And so it's not like we have a problem without resources. We do, and the money's getting spent as fast as we can get it out the door related to lead. But with the opioid crisis, we have settlement funds related to us suing the manufacturers and distributors of these drugs. We held them accountable. We won in court. Now they're going to help pay for the recovery for our community related to that. One other topic before I get into kind of some infrastructure and economic development stuff, but there's a lot about specifically the city of Syracuse child poverty rates. What we all need to understand is that this data is a little bit lagging. It's data points from 2016 to 2020. In 2019, we made this the core emphasis of my campaign, and we put in a lot of infrastructure to address long, mid, and short-term goals to remove barriers to employment for adults, to make strategic investments in young people as early as babies in the Early Childhood Alliance, so that from a long-term standpoint, the best way to get kids out of poverty is to make sure they never get into poverty. So we need our kids today to graduate from high school and to go on either to college or to go into the workforce. To address the short term, this isn't about kids, this is about adults. And this is about adults getting jobs and then getting careers. And so what's preventing us from doing that? Part of that is barriers to work, to employment for individuals, specifically young moms. Childcare is a barrier. In my State of the County address, what we did is we expanded the dollars that the amount of income you can make to get childcare subsidies. We also lowered the threshold of which families have to match to get those subsidies. So you can be working class now and make more money to get subsidies, and your own match is much, much less. It was about $12,000 a year. Now it's going to be $300 a year. And we expanded the eligibility. So if you're working and you're going to college to get a degree, before you wouldn't qualify for childcare subsidies. We got rid of that. So today you do. So from a childcare, we know that was a barrier to employment for many people who are living near or below poverty. We just made it much, much easier to afford it. And we've made enhancements with our childcare providers, so there will be more slots available as well. In addition to that, you look at barriers. Transportation is a potential barrier. Lots of investments in Centro, more routes, more buses, ride sharing, van pooling. These are things that we have done. Workforce development is a huge barrier. We now have jobs with some of the big projects that we've been able to secure over the last 24 months. We got to train the individuals for these jobs, whether it's jobs in the healthcare industry, whether it's jobs working in a logistics company like Amazon, whether it's manufacturing for technician jobs like JMA Wireless. We've developed workforce training programs specifically for these individuals to go to the jobs that are right here in our community. So looking at poverty, there's not going to be a quick solution to this. The numbers will get better drastically than what was just reported, because it was exacerbated by COVID, and much of the programming we put into place never got fully implemented till this year. So they will get better, but it's about getting adults jobs and adults careers. and working with the kids long term to increase graduation rates and workforce placements. And we're doing that, and we're lightning focused in on that. Other big things that we've been doing is focusing in on infrastructure with world-class infrastructure, meaning not just roads and bridges, but wastewater capacity. You can attract economic employment. Any company that makes something needs wastewater capacity to make that. We need to be able to treat that waste. Communities that don't have capacity can't grow. We've been really making significant investments in developing that capacity. And because of that, we've been able to secure some large investments, but we're really in the race for some really large scale investments at our business park in Clay called White Pine. It's one of the only sites in what we'll call a mega site, meaning over 1,000 acres of land that has the electricity, the natural gas, the wastewater, and water to attract a high-tech manufacturer. And we are a finalist for a large semiconductor investment. And if we're successful, it will change everything. The economic opportunities for our people here will be abundant. In addition to that, we'll have many people moving into our community to take advantage of those as well. So that's one really post-pandemic opportunity that we have because of our infrastructure and our natural resources. The other is to really recapture the space as the leisure stay destination in Central New York. And we've put forward really two proposals to the legislature, and one being a sports tourism complex. If you have children or grandchildren that play on travel teams, you know that from the spring to the fall, they're traveling every weekend, and either your or your kids are spending a lot of money going into these communities for 3 to 4 days at a time, and you need a complex to host these. And certainly we have one proposed where we would have 10 outdoor fields put together at our Hopkins Road facility in Liverpool. We own it. It's a county park. The marketplace shows it will create 200 to 500 new jobs. In addition to that, we would see a situation where you would have a lot of tourism room nights for hotels and restaurants to really come in and see that type of stimulus. I talked about an uneven economic recovery. Our unemployment rate for every industry outside of hospitality is about 5.5%. The hospitality industry is 9.8%. We need to support that industry. These are our restaurants, these are our hotels, these are all of our cultural and arts organizations. And so the best way to support it isn't one-shot money, but to create an infrastructure that will continue to draw people into the community. And working with our Friends of the Zoo group, which has made our zoo, the Rosamond Gifford Zoo, one of the best in the country, and one of only 200 plus accredited zoos and aquariums in the country, we've put forward a proposal to do just that, is to build a state-of-the-art aquarium. There is not a state-of-the-art aquarium in all of upstate New York, anything north of New York City. And we have the resources to pay cash for it. So fiscally, we can do this without long-term debt service. And we hired a market study, an expert in this space, to tell us if it was feasible. This is an idea, tell us it can work, and show us why it can work. And so they did that, and they came back and they said it can work and it can work well. Secondly, we said, where should we do it? Look at different spots throughout the county, different areas, different land, and tell us where they can do that. And so they came back with the Inner Harbor being the right location for it. And what this does, and there's so many different synergies here. One, the best way out of poverty is a job. This creates jobs. It will create about 500 construction jobs for about a year. But then in addition to that, it will create about 500 permanent jobs at the facility and in that hospitality industry. Two, it's very much in connectivity with our cleanup of Onondaga Lake and its tributaries. Onondaga Creek, Onondaga Lake, the Inner Harbor. These are all tributaries that the county's invested in. Honeywell is invested combined over $1 billion to clean up and to turn these bodies of water into assets for our community. And we're seeing that happen right now. Three, with climate change and with STEM and STEAM education being a focus of the jobs of tomorrow, what better place to have an aquarium to team up with some of our higher ed institutions like SUNY ESF, Syracuse, Lemoyne, OCC, than having a living laboratory there to talk about the cleanup of Onondaga Lake, to really talk about climate change and talk about the different changes to these aquatic species, and to give our kids an opportunity to have that really state-of-the-art educational component. How many of our kids in the city school district have ever been to an aquarium? How many of our kids in any school district have really been to an aquarium? Think about that. Think about the opportunity we're giving our kids. Also, if you go to other communities that have harbors and bodies of water and they have aquariums, it has been the catalyst for really unique investments. Think about Baltimore, think about Chattanooga. It has driven hundreds of millions of dollars of investment because you're bringing density there, and it will help support the Inner Harbor project. It will really work in conjunction with our county park systems, the amphitheater, the ballpark, Destiny USA, the Loop the Lake Trail, all right there. So our lakefront and our harbor will become the epicenter of recreational and leisure activity. And that's happening right now. I think about the regional market. So what has really slowed this project from ever happening, it's been talked about for 20 years, was money. And because we budgeted so strongly in 2020 and 2021, we've produced a surplus so we can pay cash for this. And this will bring the visitors into our community, not just at the aquarium or the sports tourism project that will go to our parks and will go to Destiny, but they'll go to the Landmark, they'll go to the Red House, they'll go to the Most, they'll go see events in downtown, they'll eat at the restaurants. This is what these arts and cultural organizations now need. They need more people coming to their events because more people is what's going to make them sustainable, not just government bailing them out year over year. So we're really excited about this. We really want people to support it, to let the legislator know to support it, and learn more about it. We're happy to answer any questions. But this entertainment infrastructure is what's going to drive long-term gains for that hospitality industry. And at the state of the county, I said there is no recovery by picking winners and losers. We have resources. We can address the human service impacts of the pandemic. We can address the economic impacts by investing in our entertainment infrastructure. We can invest in our infrastructure overall. We're going to be investing in broadband. So every area in our county is going to have high-speed access to the internet. Moving forward, we're going to move that quickly. So we're really excited about where we are today and the opportunities moving forward. But happy to take questions and hear directly from you.